Hey, this is Jeff, and we need to talk. There's a chemical called dihydrogen monoxide, widely used as an industrial solvent, which is virtually unregulated, and while amounts vary by region, it is literally everywhere. It isn't trapped by consumer grade or industrial filters, so whether you drink from the tap or from a bottle, you're getting some. I'll talk about the health risks in a minute, but first I want to discuss the environmental impact. Dihydrogen monoxide is the most potent greenhouse gas in the Earth's atmosphere, more so than carbon dioxide or even methane. It's believed to be a contributing factor to climate change overall, and it's known to be a principal cause of many short-term extreme weather events. It's also a major component of acid rain, and under certain circumstances it can bond with road surfaces in a way that dramatically reduces the friction coefficient, so it's been linked to numerous highway fatalities. And as if the environmental impact wasn't bad enough, when inhaled in sufficient quantities, it's usually fatal without prompt medical attention, causing over 3,000 deaths annually in the United States alone. And even in relatively small amounts, it can cause serious respiratory discomfort. So doesn't it seem like any rational person should support much stricter regulations, or even an outright ban? Well, two equally rational people starting with the same data can reach equally valid but different conclusions. How is that possible? Logic is a harsh mistress. If their reasoning is sound, don't they have to agree? Not necessarily, for at least two reasons. First, priorities. Person A says the data clearly proves that our project can't be completed by the deadline with the currently available resources, therefore we need to hire more staff. Person B says the data clearly proves that our project can't be completed by the deadline with the currently available resources, therefore we need to postpone the launch date. If the top priority is meeting the deadline, person A is right. If it's staying within budget, person B is right. But in the absence of an authoritative statement about which of those priorities takes precedence, their conclusions are equally valid. Of course, when lives are at stake, the question of priorities is usually much clearer. The other reason is missing data. So back to dihydrogen monoxide. Every single statement I made about it is factually correct, but to demonstrate a point, I intentionally omitted one key detail. Specifically, dihydrogen monoxide is more commonly known by its chemical formula, H2O, or its street name, water. So, still want to ban it? I know, ha, but I wasn't just wasting your time with nerd humor. The point is, this technique is used all the time by people who make their living by ripping you off. Career politicians and marketers in particular are extensively trained to use it as a primary tool of their trades. You can't call them liars, because if you fact-check what they're saying, it comes up as true. But when you catch them withholding information to manipulate you, you can at least call them disingenuous. When someone says they're framing an issue, what that means is, by definition, they're purposely excluding or obscuring some part of a bigger picture. What can you do about it? First, be willing to change your conclusions to keep them consistent with any new information that becomes available. Quick and fairly minor example. A while back, I did an episode about vaping, e-liquid, and nicotine. Since then, the CDC released a study which said up to that time, November 2019, every single lung sample they tested from people who had vaping-related illnesses contained vitamin E acetate, which isn't used in commercial e-liquid, but is commonly used in counterfeit e-liquid, particularly when it's used to deliver THC, the chemical in cannabis that gets you high. And previous research suggests vitamin E acetate can interfere with normal lung function. So, most of my reasoning and conclusions in episode 3 are still valid, but because of the missing data, it was missing a key recommendation. Specifically, if you contact your local, state, and national elected representatives about protecting your right to vape, tell them to stop wasting time, money, and lives on this obsession with flavorings in commercial PG and VG-based e-liquid and start looking at street e-liquid containing vitamin E acetate. See? Adapting your conclusions to match new facts isn't that hard. But more important than that, when you're listening to someone who has a motive to influence your opinion, be on the lookout for arguments based on intentionally incomplete data. Once you're aware of it, you'll notice this technique virtually every time you see an advertisement and every time you hear a politician speak. It's not always easy to identify which missing facts are important, but it is easy to stay alert when you disagree with their conclusions. And it's just as important to watch out for this trick when the message is something you agree with. Yes, if you find the missing facts, you run the risk of having to change your mind. But if those facts are still consistent with your conclusion, even if they're inconvenient or uncomfortable, then you've made your case that much stronger. And if you don't bother looking, you run the risk that somebody on the other side who's paying attention will shred your argument for not telling the whole story. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and as always, feel free to like, share, and leave comments. Subscribe if you like hearing contrarian opinions when neither side of the mainstream debate is telling you the whole story, and we'll talk again soon.